Well, thank God that wasn't a massively hyped primetime football game tonight, because that would have been really embarrassing to get to play such a pathetic, grotesque football game in front of a huge audience. Um, Vikings lose 31-9 to the Lions. Uh, the North is gone. One seed is gone. We will be on the road for the playoffs, and playoffs might not last very long if that's the kind of display we're going to get. I mean, that was nothing short of an embarrassing performance by the Vikings tonight. Absolutely embarrassing, and I'm sure there's going to be Lions fans that that find the video, find this video later on. You know what? Everything they're going to say is right. The Vikings. I'm not saying the Vikings are frauds, but they're not in the Lions class. You know, we can't beat the Lions. Not in this iteration. Um, the Lions are our daddies. Um, I mean, you know, you just look at the score, 31-9. You wouldn't even know that this game was fairly winnable for about 3 quarters. But number one story of this game is Sam Darnold. Uh, all the praise and deserved, I think, for Darnold over the last really, couple months really, since he had that little rough stretch with like the Jacksonville game and a couple others, and he'd really pulled out of that and been playing clutch and playing just great football. Uh, this was an absolutely horrific performance from Sam Darnold. Um, he ended 18 out of 41. That doesn't happen in the NFL anymore, where a guy throws that many passes and completes less than 50%. Um, I mean, I kind of tuned out of this game. I mean, I watched to the end because I'm a masochist, but um, I kind of tuned out of this game by the fourth quarter mentally, so I don't even remember what was really going on in the fourth quarter. Um, but like the first half, you know, we had chances to really put some, maybe not to, build a huge lead, but they certainly could have had a lead, and they could have been a lot more competitive, because you come in thinking this is going to be some sort of a shootout game. It really wasn't that. Um, it was kind of a defensive game early, um, and you know we get in the red zone a few times, and Darnold can't complete a goddamn pass to save his life. Everything is massively off target. Most of the passes are way too high. He had receivers. I think there was one of the red zone trips. There were back to back plays where we had wide open touchdowns, and he couldn't complete a pass. And yeah, there was pressure. Like they were blitzing and they were getting pressure. But you know what? No, he's been in the league a long time now. You know, he's been pressured before. He knows what that's like, and But this was one of the worst given the stakes. This was one of the worst performances by a Vikings starting quarterback I've ever seen. Um, there have been many worse games, but for 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 a performance like that in a game that really mattered, I mean, this game really was the difference between having a real, like, concrete, absolute yes, we can go to the Super Bowl, and boy, we're a major long shot. Um, and Darnold didn't come to play, and Darnold was a massive disappointment. And I think all the talk about premature talk maybe about what are we going to do a quarterback in the offseason. Well, that's decided now. Unless he goes on a Super Bowl run, No. His performance tonight guaranteed now that J.J. McCarthy is going to be the presumptive QB1 going into 2025. And Darnold cost himself some money with this game because, I mean, someone's going to still pay him, but it's just absolutely horrible performance. Just everything was inaccurate, skittish, holding the ball. He would either hold the ball too long, or he would have to scramble out of the pocket, and then he would just indecisive. This was Jets Sam Darnold. Absolutely, just horrific performance. I mean, it was an F performance from Darnold. Just and they gave us no chance because we could, our red zone trips. We had a bunch of cracks at it, and we weren't getting points. I think it was the first one. We went for a 4th and goal, and I didn't disagree with that at that point. That was still early. We didn't know quite what was going on in the game at that point. You knew, or you figured that we're going to have to get touchdowns to beat the Lions, because you assume going in, like, that was obviously their approach. Like, hey, we're gonna have to go for some 4th downs. We're gonna have to go. We're gonna have to push the issue a little bit to try to get some more points. To outscore these guys, because obviously almost everybody went into this game thinking this is going to be a very high scoring game on both sides, and you're going to need to just outscore them, because you told me the Vikings were going to give up 31 points tonight, I would have been like, yeah, that sounds about right. I might have thought, hey, that's maybe even better than I would have anticipated. And the defense gave up 31 points. I'm not going to rip on the defense too much. I mean, there was a whiff of quit in the defense in the second half there, because we gave up 3 straight touchdown drives there in the second half. But I'm not going to get on the defense. The offense gave them nothing. The offense gave them nothing in this game. No support at all. And again, the Lions offense is scary good. But even that, like, they didn't really do much. It was Jahmyr Gibbs and nobody else. Like, Goff wasn't spectacular. He threw 2 picks. I mean, it was like, you told me we were going to give up 31 points, but we were going to get a couple of interceptions. Hey, I would have said, hey, we got a great chance to win, because that was going in. That was like, you assume they're going to score, but if we can steal a couple possessions with turnovers, that's great. I would take that. Every single time. We got the Ivan Pace interception, a really great tip pass. Gave us like a ball right immediately in the red zone, but we couldn't put it in. We couldn't punch it in. I think we got field goals off the 2 interceptions. Harrison Smith got a leaping pick later on. I think that was also first half, or maybe that was in the third quarter. But we only got field goals off of that. I certainly didn't agree with the second time where we went for the 4th and goal, because by that point it was clear that Darnold was horrible. And you can't put the game in his hands. And once again, and I knew this would bite us. It's bitten us at times during individual games. KOC, man, he's got to stop this thing where he just abandons the run. Aaron Jones wasn't even out there. I think Aaron Jones got like 10 carries. Cam Akers is out there. Cam Akers did bust off one long one to set up. That was the second one where we went for the 4th and goal. Ultimately, with what the score finished up as, if we had taken a couple of extra 3s, it wouldn't have made any difference. But by that point, it's like, stop putting the game in the hands of Sam Darnold. When like, Aaron Jones is good, and I don't know if we were doing what. I don't know if we were like saving him. I know he was out a little bit at the end of the Packer game, like injured or something. Unless he was sort of injured again. I don't know what's going on with them like underusing him. But the way we just go away from the run, Like you got it. Like I get it. If Darnold is on, and you want to just throw, okay, that's one thing. But when he is not good, and he was horrifically bad tonight, and they just kept throwing the ball, and in the red zone they just kept throwing the ball. It's insane. You run the ball that can help your offensive line too. They didn't want to do it, and it's doubly embarrassing because this Lions defense, as has been well talked about, they are just decimated with injuries. They lost, I think, a couple more guys in this game. Just decimated injuries. 6 days ago, they let Brock Purdy and whatever the tattered remains are of the 49ers go out and put 28 points up, and that was with them throwing a couple picks and missing a couple field goals. And we couldn't put one in the end zone. That's fucking embarrassing. The Vikings were embarrassing. This offensive performance was absolutely embarrassing. It'd be one thing if the Lions still had like all their defenders and great defense, and okay, they just play a great game on you. Well, obviously the game plan was superior. They were just blitzing, and we didn't counter. This might have been the worst game of KOC's coaching career. And it's not just him. I mean, obviously, like there's other coaches involved and stuff, but there was no adjustment to anything. Like it was just we're just gonna go after Darnold, blitz, do whatever, and they're not gonna do anything. We didn't do anything to get anybody, we didn't do anything to get anybody free, out in the secondary, and even when we did, half the time Darnold either missed the guy or we did have some drops. There were a couple of pretty important drops in there. I know even Jefferson dropped one. I mean, it was just I don't. You look at a 31-9 score, you're like, oh, we just got our asses kicked, and yeah, sort of, but this could have at least been a game in doubt in the fourth quarter. But Darnold was shit. Offensive line was shit. We didn't try to run the ball. We really didn't have any significant plays in the passing game. We had, we've had one of the most explosive teams in the league as far as explosive plays. I mean, we barely had any in this game. Our biggest play was the Cam Akers run. I mean, yeah. I mean, this was. I mean, it's so abrupt to have this happen with Darnold because I was a Darnold skeptic deep into this season. It wasn't until, really probably that Cardinal game maybe, or no, the Bear game at Soldier Field, where it was like he was really stepping up in these biggest moments. Even if he has like shaky parts to the game, he's stepping up in the biggest moments when we really, really need it. He's really coming through. Obviously, then he had, obviously a couple other real big games in there. Very, very good game against the Packers. You figure it's all lining up. And I understand, very tough to play in Detroit, even with all their guys out. It's not like they don't have players and they don't have a very good team. But you still think, okay, at the very least, we're gonna be able to go toe to toe with them offensively, and to put that out there is grotesque and embarrassing, and I am ashamed of my team for doing that. It doesn't mean Darnold is worthless. It doesn't mean he can't bounce back next week in the playoffs, but I mean, this was this. I mean, the only positive from his game is he didn't turn the ball over. I think we did have a turnover. I think we did have a turnover late, or did they? I don't remember. Again, I kind of tuned out mentally later in the game. which I haven't had to do all year because we only lost 2 games, and those were both in doubt, late into the fourth quarter. This is a unique experience this season. Um, and Chris, even when we played the Lions last year with Nick Mullins, it was better than this. I mean, Mullins was an idiot and threw interceptions all over the place, but I mean, at least he put up points. I at least had the thought tonight, do we just fucking say still and go to Nick Mullins? I know they would never do that, and I wouldn't even have been in favor of it because you're not gonna do that. But yeah, this was a depressing game to watch because I against my better judgment, I've everything I've experienced in 30 whatever years as a Vikings fan, I was kind of daydreaming about what it would be like if we could get home field and maybe host an NFC Championship game and maybe go to a Super Bowl. And it's fun to do it, but now that's all been torn away because that's not going to happen this year, barring unless we are one of the very, very few teams that can go on that sort of a run. It's happened a couple times. It's not completely unprecedented, but unless the NFC playoff field is full of upsets, we would have to win 3 games on the road. And that's only happened 3 times in the history of the NFL, and obviously they haven't had the extra wild cards, for the whole Super Bowl era. But 07 Giants that beat the unbeaten Patriots, the 2020 Bucks with Brady, and then when the Packers were the 6th seed. I don't think there were any others. I think those are the only ones that have done it and won the Super Bowl. I think there's a couple other teams that made it to a Super Bowl just playing road games. I think that Patriots team that got killed by Chicago, I think they did. I think they went all on the road. But it's the odds are overwhelmingly against the Vikings doing that. Again, it's such a world. And of course there's the whole thing of, hey, we're the first team to ever win 14 games and not get to play a home playoff game. Because of course we are. Because of course that would happen to the Vikings. I wanted to get back into the Purple Palace in January here, but we won't be seeing the Purple Palace again until next season, barring something absolutely unbelievable. I mean, we're the 5 seed, Washington's the 6, Green Bay's the 7. We would all basically have to just run the table, and that's not going to happen. So, but yeah, this was a very just a grotesque game, of course, and to compound it, we had kicking issues. Riker missed another long field goal, which he shouldn't have been taking anyway. I mean, it was 17-9, I think. We went for that field goal, and of course followed up the missed field goal by giving up a touchdown drive. And he made a huge mistake right before the half. We had gotten the field goal to make it 7-6, and then Riker kicks the ball out of bounds, the kickoff, which gave him the ball at the 40. They hit one pass, and boom, they kick a field goal. We just give it it was just a total meltdown by the team tonight. Again, I'm not ripping the defense too bad. I mean, we have a good defense. It's not a great defense. Look, we got a couple interceptions. Gink came within so close to getting his hands on another one for a pick 6. So close. Which that was really ultimately that was our last chance. I think it was 17-9 when that happened, and he almost jumped the route again and did his classic thing there. Maybe he wouldn't have been able to pick 6 it, but dropped it, and then they went down and scored, and it was 24-9. And I mean, you knew it was over. I mean, it was really over at 17-9, but because you just knew, like, there was, Darnold has had bad first halves and then turned it around a couple times, but you just knew. There was nothing was going to change. Um, so I don't know what else is there to talk about from this game specifically. Again, the Lions weren't great. It's not like the Lions. This was a very beatable version of the Lions. Maybe a more competent team will beat them in the playoffs. I mean, all the Lions now have to do, we faced the horror of the Lions going to the Super Bowl last year. Thought it was going to look like it was all but guaranteed. All they got to do now is win 2 home games, and they're going to be in the Super Bowl. When I've never seen the Vikings in the Super Bowl in my lifetime, and the Lions are going to do it this year unless someone goes in there. If it's chalk for it's going to be what it would be. It would be like Rams or a wild card team first, and then maybe the Eagles. I mean, I don't know. I don't want them to get in there, but I mean, you look at the NFC playoff field. I don't want the Lions in there. I certainly don't want the Packers in there. I don't want the Eagles in there. I guess it's probably going to just be another thing where a team I hate, gets to do what I've never seen my team do. But yeah, I just thought KOC just was not just KOC, but like the whole thing. Yeah, kind of showing some highlights. I forgot there were a couple ref things. I mean, there are people blaming the refs. The refs really ultimately didn't have a lot to do with the outcome of this game. But I mean, the way they took away that what was an obvious intentional grounding in the end zone would have been a real big needed momentum swing. I think it was 7-0 Lions at the time. And they were like, oh well, it's not grounding because he threw it and there was a receiver in the area. Yeah, but he threw it right at a lineman. It hit the lineman. That should have been a penalty. That should have been a safety. They didn't give it to us. They kind of let us. They kind of let the Lions grab our receivers too. But I don't know. It was such a pathetic display. I can't really muster the outrage to blame the refs. I mean, the refs were bad. I got real sick of Collinsworth, jerking himself off to the greatness of the Lions. I mean, he was treating every single thing the Lions did like it was the greatest thing in the history of the National Football League. That's right. Yeah, they missed another face mask on Darnold. I don't know what it is about Sam Darnold. They don't call face masks when he gets his face mask grabbed, but it's not the ref's fault the Vikings lost. It's the Vikings' fault the Vikings lost. But this isn't much of a video. I'm just moping. But I mean, there's not much else to talk about. I mean, this was I had hope still at halftime. I mean, I was like, even after gifting them that 3 points, I was like, well, it's 10-6. We're getting the ball first, and you kind of hope that there's going to be some adjustments made, and we've kind of been a second half team. For the most part this year, it's like, you figure, okay, we're going to kind of figure this out, and yeah, they're probably going to figure it out to a degree too, but it'll probably maybe just turn into like that shootout that you expect, and then, but our offense just never competed, and it's so embarrassing that a defense and just a decimated defense that the Lions have that has been lit up for weeks. I mean, even the Bears scored more than this against them a couple times. It's like we couldn't even put up as many points as the Bears did. I mean, it's like I'm not expecting them to go put up what the Bills score on 48. I wasn't expecting them to go put up that many points, but I thought they were capable. I guess Darnold really hoodwinked us. You know, and it doesn't make him bad. It doesn't make him bad. It doesn't mean he's been a fraud all year. Just like any quarterback can have a bad game. It's just, of course, this had to be the game where he was horrible. But it's just embarrassing. We couldn't put a single ball in the end zone against this defense with all those opportunities. You know, so I don't know. Flush this game. What are you gonna do? We had dreams of a number one seed. Haven't had the number one seed since '98. Haven't obviously that was the last time we hosted an NFC Championship game. It's so much easier if you have home field. It's not impossible to go on the road, or even not even necessarily just to go to a Super Bowl, but to make a run. You can make a run going on the road. The Vikings did it back in '87. They won a couple playoff games on the road to get to an NFC Championship game. I mean, these things aren't impossible, but it's so much harder. And the Vikings have played, not tonight, but they've played well on the road for the most part this year. It's just, it's a lot harder. You know, so you know, and again, even now in the wake of a hugely embarrassing, grotesque defeat that is probably one of the most depressing Vikings games I've ever seen. You do have to do the thing of, if you had told me at the start of the season they were going to go 14-3, even if that meant a wild card, every Vikings fan on the planet would have taken that, given what the expectations were for this team. But again, things have kind of changed in recent weeks. Like, this isn't, oh, we're just playing with house money. It's like when things change into, no, maybe we actually can do this. Well, maybe we can't do this now, but it's almost like this game just reset the expectations. Now it's like if we win a playoff game and then get bounced after that, it probably, I would say satisfied, but God damn it. I just want to see this once in my fucking life. I just want to see it once in my fucking life, to see this team win the Super Bowl. It shouldn't be this, it shouldn't be this complicated to even get to one. So yeah, as they're showing their TV, next Monday night we will be at the Rams, the last game of the wild card round. So we'll be back in the site of our last loss before this, the game where our defense was not very good in that game, and then of course the infamous Darnold face mask grab in the end zone late in the game. That was kind of the best game the Rams have played maybe all year. I mean, they did beat Buffalo, but the Rams, they kind of picked themselves up. They won the division. They lost today because they were starting Jimmy Garoppolo, who I didn't even remember was with them. Um, um, they played Seattle and lost. Um, so I guess they were fine dropping to the 4 seed because Tampa Bay won the South, so they're the 3. I mean, I'll say this: I'd much rather play the Rams than Tampa Bay. I mean, Tampa Bay was kind of bad today, but the way Baker Mayfield's been playing, I'd much rather avoid playing them and go play the Rams. I don't think it's an impossible task by any means to go beat the Rams. If we get this version of Sam Darnold, we have no chance to beat anybody in the playoffs. But this is certainly a winnable game. I'm sure we'll be underdogs, especially after that performance. But yeah, they can go win. They can go beat the Rams. They hadn't even kind of rounded into form yet when they played the Rams back in October, and that was a game that wasn't decided until late. I mean, they can go they can go win that game. I mean, they didn't have Hawkinson in that game. You barely had Hawkinson in this game. I think he had one catch. God, what a fucking embarrassment this game was. I just hate everything about this game. I want to forget it ever happened. Um, you know, but yeah, I think you can go. I think you can still you know, go beat the Rams, win a playoff game. I mean, fuck, we haven't won a road. You know, actually, our last road playoff win was actually just on this date 5 years ago. Was the game in the Superdome where Kirk beat the Saints. Kind of weird timing that you know, how much has changed in 5 years. Kind of the unofficial debut of this channel was reaction from that game. Um, but they certainly have a chance to go beat the Rams. The Rams have not been overly impressive. They've won some games, but I mean they haven't scored a lot of points in some of those games. What did they beat? They beat the Cardinals last week, but it was like a really low scoring game. They beat I think the Saints maybe in a low scoring. Like they haven't been. It's not like they've been playing like super impressive. We get a good if Darnold bounces back, then this is this is will obviously be the biggest game of Darnold's career because this will be, if nothing else, his audition for free agency. I think he's made it pretty certain now that he's not going to be the guy next year. But because I don't think you can. And again, this isn't a decision they have to make for like almost a couple months, but you can't commit. I don't think big money long term now when a guy can have this kind of horrific performance on that stage against that defense. I just don't think you can do it. And but this is his audition. Like if he can bounce back and have a really good game, get him a win, help lead him to a win. Hey, he's setting himself up, for a big payday. And I hope he does. I hope he bounces back against the Rams. And I hope we win. And if we do win, there's a pretty damn good chance we're going to be right back at Ford Field in 2 weeks. That would, of course, depend on what happens with the other two wildcard games. Green Bay will be at Philly because Green Bay lost to the Bears today. That was fun. Green Bay lost at home to the Bears. That was hilarious. So they fell to the 7th seed, and Washington came back and beat Dallas, so they clinched the 6th. So it's going to be Green Bay at Philly. I would certainly think the Eagles are going to win that game. And then Washington and Tampa, which could be kind of interesting, but I think Tampa Bay will win that game because of the way Baker Mayfield's been playing. So I think those two games are going to go to the home team. So if we can bounce back and beat the Rams, yep, we're going right back to Detroit. It's the old saying of, it's hard to beat a team 3 times this season. It's not impossible. It's happened, but that's why even I wasn't necessarily treating this game as the end all be all of everything, because I figured regardless of who won, there was a pretty good chance that there's going to be another, there's going to be a third matchup in 2 weeks. If it was reversed, if the Vikings had actually won tonight, there'd be a pretty good chance that the Lions would be coming in here in 2 weeks. If it had worked out that way. So, I mean, that would be a hell of a surprise if in 2 weeks, we get by the Rams and then go back to Detroit for another crack at it and you actually get them this time. I mean, I don't know what happened tonight. This was just a fiasco, just a disaster. I mean, that's the NFL. You think you know what's going to happen, even if you kind of just know what's going to happen, and then something completely different happens. Because if you told me any scenario for the Vikings losing this game. Obviously, I thought the Vikings might lose this game. There's certainly a possibility. I never in a million years would have thought they would have lost this game, not even getting a touchdown, a single touchdown, and not even getting into double digits. But they were an embarrassment tonight. Absolutely embarrassing. I know they had won 9 in a row. It's hard for any team to win that many games in a row. It's a lot to ask. Normally, a team is 14-2. You're not worried about. You still have to play to even have a home playoff game. It's never happened before. What a shock that it happens to us. Maybe they'll change the rules in the future. I doubt it, but it's just. It's kind of like, what can we salvage the season now? Because I mean, if after everything that's happened, you put up that display tonight, and then you go and lose to the Rams, go one and done. And I know this was not intended to be a Super Bowl season this year, but that's going to be just the balloon popping. I mean, it's going to be just absolutely all the excitement that's surrounding this franchise right now is just going to be gone. And I know there's a very bright future. We've got still a young quarterback who we haven't even seen yet. And you look at this draft class of quarterbacks, everybody looks good. I mean, the worst guy is Caleb Williams. It's hilarious that the Bears may have picked the worst guy out of the group, but everybody else has looked really good. So McCarthy's a hit too. But it's hard to think about that when you're like 6 hours ago. I was thinking, God, we're going to go into Detroit, maybe win, and maybe have home field advantage. And again, I hope that this regime, what they're building and they've built, can have like consistent cracks at it, so we're not like, it's not like 10 years until we have another legitimate shot at doing something. But you never know. The fear is that this was our one chance to really do something special, and we might have just blown it. But the one positive is we still have the fallback of we're already in the playoffs. Crazy shit can happen. Teams can go on runs. It can happen. I think this team has shown a certain resilience. They've certainly shown that they have the talent to beat good teams. They've beaten some good teams. They've beaten some good teams on the road. I think it's all going to be about, can Darnold bounce back? Because if he has a good game to great game, yeah, absolutely, go beat the Rams. If he has bullshit like tonight, you got no chance, and we'll be getting embarrassed in another primetime situation. So, well, what are we at? Fucking 38 minutes. If you just watched 38 minutes of me basically just moping in my depressive state, I would give you a prize, but I have nothing to give. So I'm just gonna finish up. So yeah, 31-9, Vikings lose to the Lions, and it was a grotesque, embarrassing performance, shameful even, and they probably blew their only real chance at maybe going to a Super Bowl this year, and probably laid out the red carpet for the Lions to go to a Super Bowl, which is even worse. But we'll see what happens next week with the playoffs. It's a new season, and maybe we can shock the world.